Tuesday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Amedeus, and it's that time of year. We are 1 month, give or take, away from the college basketball crazy time, better known as March Madness. 68 teams will get together and start the quest for becoming the NCAA champion. And we've got an expert in Amedeus here who's going to give you clues as to how to wager on one of our favorite sports, college basketball. Amedeus, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Jim. It's great to be here as always. And yeah, it's an exciting time of year. We got March Madness coming up. Obviously, the
Right.
Super Bowl is the big story, but got the Pro Bowl this weekend. So no
Right.
one's really focusing on NFL for the next week or so.
Right.
No one cares about the dodgeball competition or, the man. Oh, actually, I did hear the Mannings were going to do a foot race possibly.
Between themselves?
Eli versus Peyton to finally settle who is faster once and for all. So we might
Eli will win that. Eli will win
easy,
that race.
but we'll have to we'll maybe have to tune in to the Pro Bowl just to witness that event.
I say that because I've known Peyton, and there's a lot of banquets he's attended. Let's just put it that way. He's definitely toting some weight there that he didn't have back in his playing days. So anyway, and by the way, thanks so much for joining us, because I know that you have been working hard as Taylor Swift's travel agent to try to make sure she could get to Las Vegas in time for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we've done the math, and she will have ample
Plenty of time,
full 24 hours almost.
She can get that jet lag right out of her system before getting on a plane and flying to Australia. So
yeah.
Anyway, Joe Lenardi, who used to be a friend, no, I'm just kidding, put out the bracketology. Now let's go over some fun stuff here, some fun stats. Okay, now let's talk about the difference between the Power Conference and the D1 college football, right? So here's the deal. On D1 college football, teams can have up to 85 scholarship players and up to 30 walk-ons, 115 players total, can dress. So that gives you an idea of how many players are on a college football team. I have seen doing games in the big, in the Big Ten and in Southeastern Conference, where there's a lot of kids on on game day where they'll be wearing a jersey, but they won't be wearing pads. So theoretically, they are on the team, but they are not, available. Another fun fact in this, and I think there was a game. I think it was Colorado, where you're going to have 115 players. There's only so many numbers you can use, and so you're allowed to have two different numbers of any number, right? But if you come on the field and there's already, let's say, a number 10 or number 5 or number 70 on the field, you've got to, you got to change jerseys or put on a different jersey, because there cannot be two of the same number on the field at the same time. So there was actually a penalty, I believe it was in Colorado's game early in this season, where that happened. So there you go on that standpoint. Okay. Now, how many teams are there in college football's D1 program? Well, that's 130. Okay. So these are 130 teams where, and not all of these teams, as we know, can make it to the championship, right? It's the Power 4 now conferences. Power 4 conferences. And that's about the size of it. However, let us move to college basketball. Now, college basketball has 15 scholarship players and up to 8 walk-ons. So, you're looking at that squad. But here's why college basketball is different than any other sport. And that, my friends, is because there are 353 D1 colleges playing, and any one of those 353 universities, including University of South Florida, has a chance to win a championship. So think about that. And that must make your job, my friend, as a handicapper, absolutely a nightmare when you're looking at 353 colleges. How many basketball games per day alone in college basketball that are out there, and I can't even imagine that the folks at the sports books have any can go in deep into any of these teams that aren't what you look at in maybe the top 100 or 150 schools.
Yeah, definitely, and specifically Saturdays are the juggernaut in college basketball, really of any sport.
Mm-hmm.
To handicap in North America, college basketball by far is one of the toughest, just because the sheer quantity of
Mm-hmm.
games, especially on a Saturday, the biggest sports betting day of the week. You have
Right.
basically almost every team playing except for the few that played on Friday and the few that are going to play on Sunday.
Right.
You get a good majority of these teams are playing on the Saturday, which makes it very difficult, just out of sheer quantity, because you really have to sift through everything. Now, at this point in the season, you can kind of narrow that down, because by now, there's certain teams that have maybe burned you a few times, and you've decided,
Mm-hmm.
just we have a term, you put them on the list, and teams that are on the list just don't get touched for the rest of the season. So those are games you can just gloss over, right?
Right.
Yeah, like me, I myself, I have a system, and a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time the system looks at the lines and the line movement. So it just a certain line on a game
Mm-hmm.
will completely take it off the board for me personally, especially in college sports. It's very rare I give out any game, whether it's the favorite or the dog, as a double digit spread. I normally stay away from all double digits. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that personally helps me narrow down the card on a
Sure.
given afternoon. It's a lot easier. I find I do like the closer spread games, just
Mm-hmm.
because I find there's more value. Like, obviously, the upsets happen, but it's a lot harder for, the 12 digit dog to pull off an upset versus the 6 or 7 point dog. So,
It's um, it's been my experience in basketball and college basketball for over 45 years now, that it's very tough in college basketball to go on the road and beat the home team. And we're talking now about, you know, we're talking about when you're going, when you have two quality basketball teams, a North Carolina going to a Duke, a Ohio State going to a Michigan, an Arizona going to UCLA. It's hard to go to one place and win. Not that it doesn't happen, but it's much more difficult in college basketball because it's not like you're in an arena like a football stadium where there's 80,000 or 100,000 people. You're in a very cramped building where you've got anywhere from 6,000 to maybe 14, 15,000 in a building, and they can be ridiculously loud.
yeah, I definitely agree with that, and it even extends to the NBA as well. I
True.
think,
Yeah.
just
Sure.
because obviously it's easier for a road team to win on any given night because we're dealing with professional athletes. But I do find the NBA tends to be a more home dominated league, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where the spreads
Sure.
start to come in, because yeah, it's easy, as you said. You could take North Carolina and Purdue, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously you're going to favor the home team who has the home
Mm-hmm.
advantage, because it's going to be easier for them. But if the spread's now, -4 or 5 for that home team,
Right.
it makes it a little more difficult, because it's like
Uh-huh.
they could win in a close game and not
Right.
cover. They could win in a blowout and cover the
Mm.
spread, or they could still lose outright. It gives it kind of like
Right.
a 33% chance either way.
Right. And the thing too, um, that is difficult is, you play football, um, and pretty much everybody's fields are the same. Obviously you're going to get some that not many of them play, in what used to be called the AstroTurf, or synthetic turf. Um, but in college basketball, the only thing is that the courts are obviously the same size, but I've seen bizarre bouncing of the ball. I mean, it's just there. If teams, your court, you know where the ball bounces true, you know where the ball bounces flat, you know where things are, because those floors are not all even. It's almost like a baseball stadium where you get guys who, if you've got a fast team in baseball, the idea used to be to leave the grass in the infield grow a little bit higher than normal. You know, just don't cut the grass till because we want that ball to when it gets hit to slow down, because our guys are fast enough to beat out infield hits. So in college basketball, you can actually have courts that give funky bounces, or the backdrop when you're shooting, as you're shooting to an open area and you're shooting and you've got behind you a sea of fans. It can sometimes be difficult and very unsettling for a shooter to get the rhythm. Now, I'm not saying they can't. It may take them, 5-10 minutes or 6 or 7 shots to take that outside and get comfortable with the rims, with the backboards, and all that. But it does take some time. So there are some intrinsic home issues that make college basketball kind of a unique sport in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. And, maybe some home advantages even have the what the Warriors are doing, where they flip on the little magnets in the nets, and how
Right.
about with the 3 point shot? I'm just joking on that. Had to get that one in there,
You have to get the splash down in there, huh? Yeah.
but yeah, absolutely. It's not only about that as well. Like a lot of the times we've seen, it's a lot easier to make the basketball court an eyesore compared to the football field. Like
Oh,
just for an
Oregon.
example, yeah, the one I was going to use, looks like somebody just vomited on the middle of the field, or sorry, the court, and there's your court.
I cannot watch it. I cannot watch a game where Oregon is playing at home. It's like my eyes will not focus. I know it's supposed to be a tree. I also know it costs a ton of money to build that thing. Um, it's just weird, really weird to watch an Oregon basketball game, and specifically at home. It's just, as you say, it's tough, tough, tough to play there. Um, and there's funky too. There's the rims maybe a little looser. Everybody's trying to get that little bit of advantage, and so it makes it tough. Let's take a look at the bracketology, and we'll also kind of talk about, because I know you like, and most handicappers like to stay away from the big conferences and stay right in the mid majors. And as we go through the bracketology, perhaps you can elaborate on that if you would.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, recently I've been touching on more of the bigger conferences as well,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just, I find it's better in conference play, because you can get more of a chance of an upset, a
Mm-hmm.
conference opponent at home maybe upsetting one of these bigger ranked teams like Purdue,
Sure.
versus Purdue going on the road and still being a 30-point favorite against North Florida or something like that.
Right.
So non-conference games, I love looking at definitely the
Mm-hmm.
mid-major and stuff. But yeah, 100%. You got to pick your leagues as well. Like the
Sure.
Horizon League is a nice one. I like
Very
to
good one.
watch conference play in, and there's a few others as well. So
We both love the Mountain West.
yeah,
It's a good one, and that really is in the mid major when you think about it. But
yeah.
anyway, Joe Lunardi's 16 seed setup is Southern in North Carolina Central, Green Bay, talking about the Horizon League, and Central Connecticut. So those he thinks will be the two play-in. I know that the NCAA hates that phrase, the play-in games, but it is what it is. Those are the two
First
16 seeds.
four.
Yeah, the first four. Sorry, I'm not just saying it. Okay. The 11 seeds are Nebraska out of the Big Ten, Boise State out of the aforementioned Mountain West, Colorado out of the aforementioned well, actually now of still for a while out of the Pac-12, and the Hall. Now, I really, I'm kind of, I'm kind of surprised the Hall is at 11 seed. To be honest, I thought they would be closer to like a 9. They've been playing good basketball.
Yeah, obviously it's still early,
Oh
so
yeah, I
we'll
mean,
we'll have to
there's a
see.
month to
But
go. Yeah.
I'm with you. Seton Hall, I think, has been proven they're a very good team. They have some impressive wins at home. Maybe they're not the best on the road, which could be factoring into that. But
Mhm.
they play in a very tough conference. You got to
Uh
remember
huh.
too, the
Sure.
Big East there. So then even Nebraska, I think is a bit better than an 11 seed. But
Hmm.
again, we'll have to see obviously how the conference
Yeah,
schedules
it'll
finish up.
there'll be some movement here in a while. Uh, the one seeds. Let's go to the Midwest. The Midwest first, first qualifying tournament will be played. It's the Detroit region, and it's going to be played in Indianapolis because Indianapolis plays basketball. You play basketball in Indianapolis every year. Just happens to be where the NCAA is located. Purdue gets the one seed, which is about a 70-mile drive from Purdue to Indianapolis, so not a bad trip for them. UConn will be in Brooklyn, which will be like a home game for them. They are the one seed in the East. Um, the obviously Purdue gets the winner of the Southern North Carolina Central game, according to Joe Lenardi. UConn gets the 16 seed, uh, which is an automatic qualifier, Eastern Kentucky. St. John's Memphis is the 8-9 game in the Midwest region, in the East region. South Carolina TCU. Uh, in Spokane, which stays in the Midwest, it's Baylor and Cornell. It's Auburn and Akron. Richmond and Duke over in Spokane. Again, in the Eastern region. I don't know how Spokane got in the East, but okay, fine. San Diego State and Richmond, Duke and Charlotte in that one. In Omaha, it'll be Utah State and Grand Canyon, Kansas and Drexel, Clemson, and we'll get the winner of a Seton Hall, Colorado game. Alabama and High Point in the 314 seed. Those games being played in Memphis. Back to Indianapolis, Texas Tech, and St. Mary's. St. Mary's is a 10 seed here. Texas Tech is a 7. Wisconsin is a 2 seed here, and they'll get Sam Houston. In the Pittsburgh region, Marquette's the 2 seed. They will get Quinnipiac, and then Northwestern will get Texas A&M. So that's the first set of teams in the Midwest region and the East region from Lenardi. Uh, Carolina's getting the West 1 seed, and the South 1 seed is going to Houston at this point. Carolina will
Your favorite team, Jim.
Yeah, my Houston Cougars. Uh, Charlotte, North Carolina opens a trial. I swear to God, I don't know how this happens, but every year that Duke or North Carolina, draws the 1 seed, they play for all intents and purposes a home game. North Carolina playing in Charlotte is like, it, it's like it's like Philadelphia, like Temple and who plays their games in Philadelphia, playing in Delaware, which is like about 30 miles from where they play. So it's there'll be a lot of Carolina people in that bracket. They're going to play the Green Bay Central Connecticut winner, according to Joe at this point. Michigan State gets Ole Miss. Meanwhile, over in the South in Dallas, which is where Houston would play, they get South Dakota State. Mississippi State takes on Utah. BYU's in the bracket right now, a 5 seed. They're in Salt Lake, so they're pretty close to home. McNeese is who they would play, Kentucky and UC Irvine. Dayton and Appalachian State over in Brooklyn. Illinois and Samford, which is the school down in Alabama. Florida Atlantic goes to Pittsburgh, and they will play against Nebraska, Boise State. Iowa State will get Vermont in the nightcap there. Memphis hosts Oklahoma and Indiana State, Creighton and Morehead State. And then Salt Lake finishes out the West region with New Mexico, Texas, then Arizona, who's the 2 seed, taking on Eastern Washington. Colorado State takes on Providence, and then Tennessee, which is a 2 seed, takes on Colgate. As we see the first list of bracketology. Interesting to me, and maybe I missed something, but I counted 8 SEC teams in the final 68. I don't know. I'm a little surprised at that many teams. Again, look, folks. There's a long way. There's a month to go before any of this happens. But I was, there is some truth to how this bracketology works when you start looking back and at how the 6 people who sit in the room and decide how this all comes down. There are some regional biases here. Not going to lie about that. It's happened year in, year out, but certainly we can say the ACC. We heard a lot of ACC names being called, heard a lot of Big Ten names being called, heard a lot of SEC teams being called.
Did you mention Grand Canyon at all?
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that one because that one. I think there's a few that they're a little high on just because of name value, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like one example, I think, is Michigan State. They're not
Yeah.
that good.
Yeah, they got Tom Izzo's brand on them.
That's what I think it is, right? But like, if you ask me, there's probably a more deserving team out there than Michigan State. Now, they could have a strong finish to the season, so I'm not going to count them out, but I think they're a little high on Michigan State.
Grand Canyon's got a pretty good draw here. Grand Canyon takes Utah State, and then if this were, let's just, for the moment, let's just play this out for a second. If Lenardi were right in this particular bracket, Utah State and Grand Canyon is an 11 seed. Utah State's a 6. Kansas is a 3. Drexel's a 14. Grand Canyon could beat Utah State and then have Kansas playing in Omaha. So that wouldn't be a bad matchup. Grand Canyon and Kansas.
Yeah, it definitely would be an
Different
interesting
styles.
One. Yeah, Kansas hasn't. They've struggled when they're not at home this year.
Whose name I didn't see on this list, and doesn't mean they can't be here before it's all over. But Gonzaga wasn't on this list.
Yeah, and that I think makes sense to me because frankly they're not that good. I know they're 15-5 and 6-1, but if there's only going to be one team coming out of that conference, St. Mary's is the better team right now. They lead the conference. They're 7-0 in it. They have the better overall record at that 16-6 slight. If you want to call that better, I mean they do have 2 games in hand, but they got the better conference record. So
yeah. Well, in fairness to St. Mary's. St. Mary's plays a wicked conference, out of conference, and so does Gonzaga. Play very strong teams out of conference, which they know is going to hurt them, but they feel, to make their to make the resume up that they feel that to get into the conference, to into the 68 NCAA tournament, they use that resume by playing those kind of teams, and more often than not, obviously those games are played either on neutral sites or where they have to go someplace else because nobody's going, to play St. Mary's at St. Mary's.
Yeah, I mean, if both of them made it, though, it wouldn't shock me either. I mean, Gonzaga, as bad as they've been in non-conference, I guess they've still been pretty good in the conference. They only have the one loss. So I'm curious, what were the 8 SEC teams? So we had Alabama, right?
Yeah, had Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. Let me look real quick here. Kentucky, South Carolina. I'm not. I should be counting. Let's see. Okay, Mississippi State, Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think that was 8.
Kentucky. Texas. No, Texas isn't an SEC team there yet.
Not yet.
Tennessee, Tennessee. Yeah, there's your Hey,
Yeah,
Tennessee.
so I think there's a chance Mississippi State and Texas A&M fall out of that. I don't think they're that good. They have a losing conference record right now.
Yeah,
They're actually near the bottom of the conference. If you
yeah.
look,
Well,
they're
but
in the
Lenardi's
bottom
got.
half.
No, I agree with you. But Lenardi has Texas A&M as a 10.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me. Like I get Texas A&M was a very good team last year, and they
Yeah,
obviously they were ranked preseason and they had a lot of high hopes. Haven't lived up to it. They're not a good road
yeah,
team, and even when we've seen them play some of these better teams, like
mhm,
we watched them go to Virginia and get destroyed. Like Virginia's good, but they're not great. So
no.
that's yeah. I think Texas A&M and Mississippi State have a chance to slip out just because they're not performing well in the conference. But if those other six made it, that wouldn't shock me. I do think Ole
Yeah.
Miss is a good team. They're the
Legit,
lowest out
yeah,
of those other six, but I think Chris Beard is a good coach, and that's what I think you're
yeah.
seeing there is because we saw it last year when obviously the incident happened with Texas and they let him go. Texas wasn't as good under Rodney Terry the rest of the season.
Hmm.
And Ole Miss was nothing last year. Now
Hmm.
they're 17-3 to start the season. So I think at somewhat you gotta give credit to Chris Beard there.
Yeah.
And they do struggle on the road. They're definitely a bad road team, but they're dominating home games. And I think that's a good first step for this team, considering where they were last year as a program.
Well, there's that, and I'm Baylor can't play out, away from home well at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's another team right now that's playing on their name. Um,
Yeah, they're actually. I'm looking at. They're only 3-3 in the conference. Like, and again, maybe things turn around, but I'm
mhm.
definitely with you on that one.
Yeah,
They
it's
haven't
possible.
lived up to expectation. Again, going back to that, Michigan State is almost at like the bottom of the Big Ten right now. They're. Let's
There's
see, what are
something
they?
about there's something about Izzo in the month of February.
Yeah,
It's like
and they did
the,
it last year for
yeah,
sure.
they will play like total crap for all the way into mid January, and then some switch will get flipped, and all of a sudden it's like the Flintstones are back in in playing in Izzo's situation with all those great guys he had from Flint, Michigan. So yeah, Michigan State's had, and Michigan as well. Was Michigan in there? I don't think they were.
No, Michigan's.
Michigan's having a terrible year.
Yeah, Michigan's at the bottom of 2-7 in the
Hmm.
conference, 7-13. If they made it, then something's
Something's
something's not
definitely fishy.
right
Yeah,
here. But
it's part of the deal with Jim Harbaugh.
the Big Ten, the Big 12 is a very good conference, but the
Hmm.
Big Ten has improved a lot last or this year. Like I don't
Right,
think last year. I think we can all agree it was Purdue and nobody else.
right.
But this year, Wisconsin's a good team. I know they
Uh-huh.
had them as 2 seed, which is interesting because Wisconsin's actually leading the conference
Right.
over Purdue. But we'll see how that shakes out, obviously. But Wisconsin and Purdue, I think, are really good.
Yeah.
Illinois, obviously, they've been ranked all year. Northwestern has some impressive wins. They obviously, again, they can perform on the road against the bad teams, but when they're at home against some of these big teams, we saw them knock off Purdue. They knocked off somebody else in their last game. I'm forgetting who it was,
Mhm.
but they Northwestern's a pretty good team. I think Nebraska is. So I think the top five in the Big Ten are pretty good. That's where I
Mhm.
think it stops though, because like
Yeah.
after that you have Maryland, Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan State, Indiana. They're good teams,
Hmm.
but you got to perform, and you're not
It
performing
would
in your
be
conference
helpful.
right now.
It would definitely be helpful. Uh, there's another situation that we didn't see a lot of in there, and that was Pac-12 teams. I think I can remember Arizona and Colorado.
Yeah, was Oregon in there?
I didn't
Because
hear. I didn't hear myself say it.
I was gonna say I didn't hear it either, and frankly, I think Oregon's better than Colorado.
Yeah,
And that's not even speaking on the fact that they're second right now and Colorado's third. I think Oregon, if you watch their games, they are a better team than Colorado.
Yeah, and and you know, forgetting the fact that neither of us absolutely like anything having to do with the court. It is. It's really odd that there's no USC,
Oh,
there's no
Washington
UCLA.
State, you said. I
Oh
did
yeah,
hear
yeah, yeah.
that one. But
The
that's what I mean.
Pac-2.
You have three of the four top four teams, and Oregon's not there. And frankly, I think Oregon just destroyed Arizona at home.
Yeah,
They might win the Pac-12 this season,
right.
Oregon.
You got USC is 8-12, 2 and
Yeah, they're kind of
7.
bad. I think a little too much hype coming into the season on the this
The Bronny James deal.
yeah, the Suns team or whatever, him and
Yeah.
Rodman's son there too.
Crazy. UCLA is 9-11, 4-5 in the conference.
Yeah, they've I don't know what's wrong with them this year. Obviously, I guess they've lost talent, but I mean it's really weird because they still have a few guys there and a good coach. And like look at Kansas State, for example. They lost their two best players, one to the NBA and one to the G League because it's too short to be in the NBA. But they're still performing. They're not great. They're not competing for the Big 12 like they were last year, but Kansas State is still 14-6. Their winning record in the conference. UCLA has just been bad. Now they're starting to play better as of recently, but I don't know. It's unexplainable.
Well, Arizona's 6-3 in the conference.
Yeah.
Okay, so Oregon 6-3. It's just not a good. There's the old excuse you could say, well, everybody there's parity in the conference. No, there's not parity. There's just isn't any good teams. You have to have good teams to have parity. So,
and I think that makes Arizona look worse too, because they're 6-3, and I agree with you. The Pac-12, we thought it was going to be better. It's not that good. Not that good this season.
No, and unless the trend changes quickly, and
it's because they had a good football year, right? You got to sacrifice one, as you said. You either successful in football one year or basketball. You can't do both in the same season. The Pac-12 was like the whole ran football.
It's funny because the Big 12 decided to really focus on basketball, and where they lose their money on the football side, they hope to make it up on the basketball side. And the Big East, obviously when they split away from the American, they kept themselves true to what they're doing in the Big East. So we saw a lot of Big East teams in Joe's first bracketology situation there. We saw a lot of Big 12 teams out there. Those are the teams that at this point in time are making it. And so I've got a few teams that in the mid majors that I think might surprise some people. I'm sure you do as well. Any thoughts on those teams that maybe are either undervalued or not even valued?
Well, I mean, I think your team, Jim, absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
13-5, 6-1 in the conference. You got UAB and North Texas ahead of Memphis.
Right.
And we got Memphis there based on their 15-5 non-conference record. I think your South Florida Bulls are a good team. I think they belong in the tournament. And I think if they got to the tournament, they might outperform FAU.
FAU's finding out real quick that jumping up to the American was a bit of a culture shock. They're still good, but part of it, and this is something that you and I both know, is if you're in a conference like they were in before, Conference USA, and this is absolutely no dig on them, you're not going to have 12 good basketball players on your bench. You're going to have maybe 3 or 4 or 5, and then it's going to fall off pretty drastically. And I think that what benefited FAU is they had a solid core of 4 really good players and really good guard play. And then they had the big guys up front. It helped them. And once they got into tournaments, it got hot and moved along. So, I'm not throwing any shade in their direction on that. But at the end of the day, I think jumping up in conference, you realize that life is a little bit different when you are playing in in a conference, even not a power conference, but even just jumping up into a different league like that. Charlotte has proven themselves to be quite talented. They made the move and they didn't skip a beat.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. Charlotte has looked like a good team. If anything, those are the three. Like right now, Memphis, they've kind of fallen off in the conference play. So
Yeah, they have.
I think your South Florida should be there though.
They'll hopefully they'll be there when the time comes. Another team that we both like is Colorado State. Uh, they're in the mix. I think we're talking about San Diego State. San Diego State might be there at the moment because of the same thing that we were talking about of what they did last year. What they did last year might have give them enough notoriety to keep them in the hunt for a spot in this tournament, regardless of whether they've had a good year or a bad year. Right now, I think they've added some new pieces, so it's a lot. It's a matter of just when do they click together. It's quite possible San Diego State will cruise on again. Another team we haven't really mentioned, they're in the top in that group, is Nevada, and Nevada's played very well. Out in
Yeah,
the West.
Colorado State and Nevada, they've let me down since we hit conference play. So they were looking great in the non-conference play, and
They're
that's
dead to
really
you now.
look, that's really what's important in the
Right.
tournament is
Sure.
how you played in non-conference play more
Right.
so than against conference opponents, because obviously some conferences everybody plays the same style
Sure. Right.
as we see. So it's very different playing in non-conference games, and I don't know. Nevada and Colorado State, they've disappointed me. They're both 3-4 in the conference, and they just haven't performed well. They're still 15-5. 15-5 and 16-5. So
Right.
very, very good non-conference teams. But yeah, I mean, I guess this year wasn't their year for the Mountain West. I think Nevada and Colorado State will be a lot better
Hmm.
uh, next season. Actually, two teams in the Mountain West that really took the conference by storm and are surprising right now: Utah State and New Mexico are both leading
Yeah.
the way. So we might have to switch out Nevada and Colorado State for those two, Chip, because San Diego
I'm good
State's
with
there.
that.
They're in third, and Boise State's a pretty good team. But again, Boise State's one of those teams where they can beat good teams at home, but once they're
Right.
away from home, you don't get their best effort.
Well, at least they don't have a Smurf turf basketball court, so
God,
we don't have to worry about that. Um, we will definitely have a lot of fun as we move along here in this, but there, there's always going to be a few of those teams out there, whether it comes from the Horizon or the American or the the MAC or any of those, where we're going to see some fun teams come from out there and see what. Oh, we were talking yesterday. What was it? Morehead State, the team that had the showers, the threes. Everybody's out there throwing from distance.
yeah, was it them or McNeese? I think it was
McNeese,
like
no, McNeese State,
McNeese.
right? McNeese.
Yeah, they're a nasty team. I mean, they're leading the conference. They should be in the in the conference or they should be in the tournament. Sorry, but yeah, they're another team that's very good.
Those are the fun teams to watch. Those are back in my directing days. To me, I got the first day of the tournament. We did 4 games. You do 2 games in the first session, then there's a dinner break, and then you come back and do two games at night. And that really was to me one of the most enjoyable and funnest times during the during college sports because you had all those fan bases. Everybody was in the building. You had all kinds of crazy stuff. You never knew what was going to happen, and it was just fun. It's just fun. I mean, um, it's fun to do it and watch some of those outstanding teams that you have no idea. A lot of people have no idea where some of these schools come from, and you suddenly understand that a little bit about Sister Jean and what she does, for University of Illinois Chicago, and all kinds of fun stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's there. It's the side stories that make March Madness the fun that it is.
Yeah, well, the big one last year was obviously, Farley Dickinson.
Yeah,
Not just because of the name, but they pulled off that big upset against Purdue, which
right.
I was in Vegas watching that at the bar at the time it happened. So
Oh my God,
that was cool to watch. We were
a
all
lot of
over
tickets being
Fair
torn
Dick
up
and
there. Yeah.
yeah, no, we were all the whole bar. I felt like the whole bar was on Fair Dick. We were all
Oh
cheering.
really? Okay.
But yeah. But I was more pissed off because at the same time Drake somehow blew like a 7-point lead against Miami in that game,
Oh
and then couldn't even cover the 4.5 in the end. So it was disappointing on that end. But yeah, it was great. We got to see the great upset there. So obviously, there's always one every year, right? And
right.
personally, out of that group of number ones you gave me, I think North Carolina's overrated. Maybe a bit of a hot take, but I don't think the ACC is very strong, and I think they're getting a false sense of security in that conference.
Well, and there weren't that many. We called a lot of names. We didn't call a lot of teams from the conference. We didn't mention Virginia. Most of the teams that normally have a place that are staked out there.
Well, even the ranked teams like Duke is okay. They're good. They didn't turn out to be this great team that they were ranked,
Yeah,
preseason. And
they're
even
not a
Miami,
juggernaut. Yes.
yeah, Miami's really missing. Who was it? Oh, Isaiah Wong and
Yeah.
did Wooga Poplar leave too? I
Yeah.
think.
They're banged up as well, so they're
Yeah,
not playing. They're not playing consistently, which is gonna be a problem for them. So anyway, uh, something is not a problem is your wonderful handicapping and what's going to be happening tonight.
yeah. Make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links in the description below. Coming off a 2-4 day, but we're looking to bounce back. Already 1-0 on the day with an African soccer winner. Had Mali earlier against Burkina Faso. I got a ton up today on the pitch. So if you're looking to bet more African soccer, I got a game at 3 o'clock Eastern time in 15 minutes you can grab, as well as 3 Premier League plays up as well. And I also have
Wow.
3 college basketball for tonight, as well as a free play on Marquette to beat Villanova. So that's the free play of the day, Marquette.
Are they playing Philly or Milwaukee?
Yeah, no, it's in Philly.
It's in Philly. Okay.
Villanova is a very weird team to me.
Yeah.
I don't quite know exactly what they are yet, but I know they're not great.
Yeah. When they lost Jay as their coach, I kind of figured life was. I think when Jay stepped aside, I think he realized, you know what, this is as good as it's going to get, and timing is everything. Let's let somebody else take this, this ride because I'm gonna head out. And Shaka Smart has done a really good job at Marquette.
Yeah, he came in right from his first season there because he's
Yeah.
only been this is what his third season I think, or even
Yeah.
second. So, so he's been there for like 3 seasons and he's done
Yeah.
wonders in every
He's
year.
recruited
So,
like a demon. I mean,
yeah, they have a solid team, Marquette, and they're a team that they were great in non-conference play. They kind of stumbled to start conference play, but now they've won 4 straight games, and I think they're just starting to hit their stride. Whereas Villanova is really not that good, and Villanova was the win that started this 4-game win streak for Marquette. So I say they just
there you go. One real quick Marquette story back when Al. Why am I blanking on the former coach there? Oh shoot. Hang on a second. Marquette's former Al McGuire. There it is. It finally got to me. little drilling going on out here. My mind doesn't necessarily function. Al McGuire was coaching, and there was a fantastic Marquette team, and his son was the point guard on the team. And there was he had a kid on the team who, Butch Davis, who was a good basketball player. And Butch came to him, to Al, one day and said, "Coach, I'm just as good as your son. Why can't I, be playing?" And then Al points to the, to the stands, points to his wife, and he goes, "When you're better than my son," he goes, "then I can make that argument to my wife. Until that happens, you're going to have to work harder." So, but fairness, he did work hard enough to get past Allie.
Yeah.
But tough times. But Marquette has always had a fun basketball team, and they were one of the first teams, by the way, to allow the students to pick and design their own uniforms.
That is pretty cool.
So they had some cool, they had some really cool uniforms that the players themselves, designed. So
that's good. That's good.
Not for nothing, right? Maybe tomorrow. The Big Ten schedule came out in football yesterday, and there's some really amazing first year games on the schedule for these teams. USC gets Michigan and Penn State their first year, and they open against LSU in Vegas.
Nice.
So they may want Caleb to come back because he's, they're going to have some interesting games right off the bat.
Hey, well, you know what? LSU is going to be without Jaden Daniels. So
True.
They'll have to, work their own demons with that fantastic coach, Brian Kelly.
Yeah. Okay.
I say it because you and I have a Notre Dame friend who
not a fan.
Hates his guts.
I'm just, look, I have nothing against Brian. I don't think he's just as good a coach as he thinks he is.
Yeah.
There may not be a coach as good as he thinks he is, but we'll see. We definitely will see. But there's going to be some wild and crazy and fun stuff in that Big Ten. So maybe what we'll do is take a quick look at tomorrow at the Big Ten schedule, because that SC schedule, they end the season at home. I mean, it's UCLA, so it really doesn't matter where they play, whether it's Pasadena or downtown Los Angeles. It's still home. So they'll play then, and then they finish the season with Notre Dame. So we will see. So there's going to be, and it's just going to be it's weird to even think about those teams in the Big Ten. It's going to be even weirder to watch them in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? All right. Let's make sure, everybody, remember that all of Amedeus' stuff is in the show box below, and partake of it quickly. Okay. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a lovely day. And, if you get a chance, drop us a note. We always love to hear from you. And subscribe and ring the bell. Okay. That way you'll know every day when we come on, which is around 2:00 every day. Okay. And like I said, anything that you want to ask us, drop it in the comments below. Okay. And while you're there, hit the like button. It always helps. Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care. For Amedeus, I'm Jim B. Well.